Ever since I've installed this JB4 on my 2023 Hyundai Elantra N-Line, it's made a huge difference in how the car drives. But I never really knew the difference it made until now.
There's absolutely no question that the JB4 adds power. And with the JB4, it has turned this already peppy 1.6 into something that feels a whole lot bigger. More usable torque, more power throughout the entire RPM band. It honestly feels how the car should have came straight from Hyundai. And that's all fine and good, but what I really wanted to know ever since putting the JB4 on was how much of a difference does it actually make? And while I have made some tests where it shows a better 40 to 80 time than when I had the car stock, I never actually showed the difference between all the different levels of the JB4. See, the JB4 comes kind of like with presets, if you will. You have map 1, map 2, map 3, map 4, and there's even a map 6, which is custom tuning. And right now, that's what the car is on. And I generally run the car on my custom map 6 tune, or calibration, if you will. It's not really a tune, but you get what I'm saying. And that's exactly how I've achieved the best times I've gotten in this car so far since I've bought it. You know, over a course of many months of many data logs, seeing how much ethanol the car likes, how much boost I can actually make, and where I can make that boost safely, I kind of figured it out and tailored a nice boost curve that I think is pretty much what this car can handle in its current form with what it's currently done, but it's a big difference. With that said, some of the lower settings, while they do make a difference, it's not nearly noticeable as what I currently have going on, because in order to run map 6 like I have safely, you have to have a lot of octane. So for me, I blend ethanol, E85. I got an E30 plus. Usually from what I can see, this car handles E30 to E40 pretty much is where it likes to be. Somewhere in between, sweet spot. If you're not willing to put ethanol in your car, which can void the warranty, and if you're not willing to want to run more boost, how much better do the more reasonable settings make? That's what I'm out to test today. So I'm out and about. I'm going to do a 40 to 80 run for all the different settings. Yep, now you heard me. Every single setting is going to have a 40 to 80 run, and we're going to compare each one of those runs. Now the first run I'm going to make is going to be a baseline. It's going to be with the JB4 bypass. So it's just, you know, the car with the current mods, which is basically just a forage intake with the bigger turbo inlet and, you know, a big cone filter and an intercooler sprayer. So that's all that's done aside from the JB4. So we'll see what the car does, and then I'll go up in different maps and different presets, and we'll see how much of a difference each one makes. So every one of these tests will be made in sport mode with traction control and stability control completely off, and with the gear selector in the sport shift setting. I'm gonna start in second gear and then floor it and let the car shift automatically from that point on throughout the run. And I'm gonna do that for every single run on the same spot, same stretch of road every single time, so I get as consistent results as possible. I'm also doing all of this today. However, I'm only doing the first 3 runs. So we did the baseline run, and then we're gonna do the map 1 and map 2. After I do the map 2 run, I'm gonna let the car cool down for a little while, and we're gonna go back out, and then we're gonna do map 3, map 4, and map 6, and see how much of a difference they make. So let me get the rest of this testing done so we can go ahead and go over the good stuff, see exactly what's going on. All right, here we go. First 40-80, JB4 disabled. All right. I can definitely tell you that took a hell of a lot longer than I'm used to the car taking. But exactly how long did it take? Well, let's go and take a look at our time.
All right, so here's our first 3 runs. All the way to the left, this is our baseline run with the JB4 disabled. And as you can see, our baseline number, 6.64 seconds, 40 to 80. Not too bad. It's actually an improvement over what this car did stock. I guess the intake is doing something after all. But unfortunately, this testing highlighted one of the downfalls to the JB4, and we're going to see that right now. Now, the JB4 allows you to switch between different maps on the fly via the JB4 app. You can switch between any of these as the car is running at any time. However, there seems to be a problem sometimes when you switch back and forth between maps and not restarting the car. Sometimes when you switch between different maps, it doesn't hit its boost targets like it should unless you do a few wide open throttle runs or get some miles or restart the car. And unfortunately, I didn't do any of that because these were back to back. And because of that, you can see the middle run, which is map 1, you can see that it went slower, and it definitely should not have went slower. And I happened to check the logs. Every one of these runs also has a corresponding log. I'm not including those in this video, but that was just for me to make sure things were going good during testing. But the log did show that yes, the JB4 wasn't hitting its boost targets. It was all over the place, causing some weird problems. And sadly, this won't be the only time we see this. But moving on, we're going to map 2. This is a 4 PSI above stock. This is 93 octane or above is what's recommended. So this is what most people can run on a pretty much stock car with a nice good tank of 93, maybe a splash of E85. But generally, this is the one that's the most safe to use, especially just with regular pump gas. And as you can see, this one did make a big difference. It did 6.33 seconds, 40 to 80, which is over a 3/10 difference. And that's the difference 4 extra PSI makes on this car. Now moving on to our final 3 runs. Remember when I said things are still going to get weird? Well, this is where it gets weird again. When I switched from map 2 to map 3, it also had an issue, and you can see that it went slower. It should have been around a 6.3 or a 6.2, but with 5 extra PSI, it only did a 6.61. And yes, the log revealed things just weren't right. And unfortunately, I just did not have the time to keep running these back to back. So this is just the data I have to work with. But it's not all bad news, because when we went to map 4, man, did things pick up. And actually, map 4 was the fastest out of this testing. On map 4, it peaks about 6 PSI over stock, taking us above 20 PSI, and that put us at a 6.21 second, 40 to 80, the fastest of all 6 of these runs on this day. So yeah, map 4 makes a monumental difference in performance on this car. But then that leaves the question, how beneficial is your custom tuning? Oddly enough, because I've been having problems switching between maps, when I switched to my custom tuning map, it also did the same thing that I saw in the previous runs, where it wasn't hitting its target boost. So it was about the same as the map 4, slightly slower at a 6.28 second, but the log revealed once again I wasn't hitting my target boost. My custom map actually targets a little over 7 PSI over stock, so it's a little bit more aggressive, and it carries the power out a little bit longer than the JB4 preset does. The JB4 presets are great, but there's always just a little bit of extra room left on the table.
So yeah, it makes a pretty big difference. And going off today's testing, we can see that between the JB4 disabled and the fastest run, which was map 4, it was a little over 4/10 faster with the JB4. Now, on a whole separate day, I did have the best time. The fastest this car's ever gone, 40 to 80, is with my custom map 6. That's 6.1 seconds. So if we want to factor that number in, that's a half a second faster than this car is with the JB4 disabled. That's huge. That is pretty cool for something that literally just plugs into a couple sensors and an OBD2 port. That's pretty neat. Now, I will say there's those discrepancies with the data. The JB4 is far from a perfect solution. It has its quirks. It's a very quirky device, and how it works and how it manipulates the car signal, yeah, sometimes there is some weirdness that goes on. It's not like the car ever runs lean or not too rich, but it never seems like sometimes the car reaches its boost targets unless you do a few runs. And I've noticed that, especially doing this test, has really made me aware that switching the different maps on the fly, although you can do it, it seems to mess with how the car responds, at least until you get a few like wide open throttle runs in, and then it kind of seems to do what it needs to do. But if you go from like one map and then directly switch to another map and then go wide open throttle, it's probably not going to work like it should. And it's, you know, it's a little weird. You can see that in the testing. Some of the runs that should have been quicker were slower. And, you know, it's not a perfect device, but it is pretty neat. I think it's well worth the money on the used market to pick one up. And I mean, they make them for a bunch of different cars. So if you were ever curious to know how much of a difference it made on my car, this Hyundai Elantra N-Line, well, that's the difference. Almost a half a second or half a second, depending on how you want to look at the data from today and previous days. But that's going to cover all my testing for today's video. Let me know what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with everyone you know. If you want to see more content like this and you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Keep a lookout for next Cars Created video.